Flame me out, Hotman. Hi, my name is Dee, Jerry, or Diana, whatever you like to call me. Today's video is going to be a review video. I haven't done a review video in quite some time. If you didn't ask for it, well, I'm sorry, but this is what we're going to do today. Now, I am a really big Avatar fan, so much so that it is my comfort show. And I know it might sound stupid, but it's not stupid. It's actually quite sad. Little by little, I tried to open up through my YouTube videos because one, I feel like it shows that I'm human. And two, because normally a lot of the stuff that I went through in my childhood, I went through it alone and I went through it by myself. And I feel like if I could talk about it openly, then it shows someone that they're not alone. And but when I say this show is my comfort show, I mean it is my comfort show. I didn't really have much of a childhood growing up. The only thing I really had growing up was my toys and TV. And those are the only things that I really remember from my childhood. A lot of people say that when you have a traumatic childhood, you tend to block out a lot of things. And I guess I have blocked out a lot of things, but the only thing that I don't ever remember blocking out was Avatar: The Last Airbender. This show is really special to me. It's really something to me, and I will defend it to my last dying breath. It is my favorite show of all time. If I could have my memory wiped and I could rewatch one show as if it's the first time, Avatar is always my go-to. If you're gonna sit here and be like, you're just judging it because it's shut up. So I just wanted to get that out of the way because I know a lot of people, to them, this is also their comfort show. In 2010, 2012, when M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong came out with his movie, we were really excited because it's like, oh shit, a live action of Avatar? Fucking count me in. We watched it. It sucked ass. Even as a kid, when I watched it, I was like, what the fuck is this shit?
My name is Ong.
I'm Aang.
And I'm the Avatar.
So, the fact that everybody praises M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong as if he's the greatest fucking movie producer, director, whatever the fuck you want to call him, it's absurd to me, because all his movies are shit. When I got the news that another live action of Avatar was gonna come out, I was ecstatic. I was fucking over the moon, because I was like, okay, well now it's what, 2023, 2022, when this was announced? I was like, oh wow, this is gonna be amazing, because now there's other producers, there's gonna be other people, and then I found out that the original writers and creators of Avatar, Then I found out that the original writers and creators of Avatar were behind the show. And I was like, dude, this is fucking amazing. I can't believe it. The original writers and creators, they are all working on the fucking on the live action. I was excited. Truly. I was like over the moon. And then I got this news.
Oh no, this can't be. Why, Lord? Why, Lord? Why?
Which, no tea, no shade, no pink lemonade. If the original writers are pulling out of the production of the live action, that is the first biggest red flag. So when little bits and pieces started coming out of this show, I was actually fairly excited. I was like, whoa, what is this? And then the show came out. And it was a little disappointing. Don't leave any hate to anybody, okay? We don't do that over here. Unless it's warranted. This isn't warranted, okay? Oh yeah, before we begin, I want to go ahead and talk about everything that came out right before the releasing of this series. First, they said that they were going to make Aang more of a serious character, which, why? Two, they're going to make Sokka less sexist, which, why? And then three, Katara isn't going to follow womanly duties, which, why? When that came out, all my hope of this series being good kind of went down the drain. I had lower expectations. I honestly thought the M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong movie was going to be a lot better than this. That's how low my expectations were. I went into this series watching it as open-mindedly as possible. First, let's get into the episodes that were cut out. So they cut out all of the filler, but they did cut out 2 episodes that I feel like were really important to the story. Cut out Imprisoned, episode 6, The Waterbending Scroll, episode 9, The Great Divide, episode 11. Now, I could speak for all of the fandom, at least I think I can. The Great Divide, I fucking hate that episode. Not for any particular reason, but like, There's just always this one filler episode that everybody will fucking hate, and The Great Divide is one of them. The Storm, episode 12. They got rid of the Fortune Teller, episode 14. Bato of the Water Tribe, episode 15. And then The Deserter, episode 16. So let's get into episode by episode. Episode 1, I loved how they opened up chronologically. Oh, if you're like, why are you looking down? It's because I have all the notes. Okay. I loved how they opened up chronologically with the Sozin period. It showed the beginning of the war of like right when Sozin was about to launch all these attacks on everybody.
The Earth King, we're going to start a war.
Oh, this is the beginning. Okay. Because at first I was like, what the fuck is this? The battle at the air temples was also amazing. In the beginning, them showing the beginning of the genocide really captured how brutal it was. Why are they flying? Oh, please don't show me the kids dying, because I never really thought about that until now. I've never thought about that until now. You never really imagine what it would look like because the cartoon never shows you. So it's honestly up for your own interpretation of how it would look, right? I felt like they captured that essence amazingly. It felt like a genocide. It felt wrong. It didn't feel good to watch. Then Kiyoshi started narrating the intro and it went downhill from there. You could tell the igloo is made out of fucking styrofoam. The dialogue felt so fucking forced.
My father has been.
My father! The pacing felt rushed. It almost kind of felt like they were filming on borrowed time. It felt like a kid that had an essay due a week, but then he waited the night before and like fucking crammed into that whole essay. He crammed a whole bunch of information into that essay. That's how it felt like. When Gran started saying Katara's intro, it made me physically cringe. It turned me off, just like this fucking monitor.
Water, earth, fire, air. Long ago, the four nations lived together in harmony.
I think that's...
Then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
This is
Only the Avatar,
so forced.
all four elements could
And I think
stop
Katara is supposed to say
when the
that.
world needed
This is so random, kind of. This kind of feels a little forced. Him running away feels even more forced.
him.
I'm sorry, but Gran coming in out of nowhere sometimes and giving rushed explanations is so fucking goofy. When Aang gets imprisoned in the first episode, he has a conversation with Iroh, which I felt like was kind of, it was done pretty well. Aang telling Iroh that really you believe that this war is a good thing, and Iroh staying quiet. He knows that it's not a good thing. And we all know that Iroh knows that this war is not a good thing. I kind of liked it, you know? You didn't see that in the beginning episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I kind of like that they added that in. There's some things that I will admit, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. You know, I like that. I didn't really mind it. I was not impressed with Zuko's scar. I've noticed that throughout the series, the scar changes shape, color, and sizes. In the first episode, the scar just looked like somebody put red eyeshadow and just went like this. Overall, I gave that episode a 4 out of 10 just because there was some things that I was just like, what the fuck? Why does that need to be there? Pushing this fan service from the cartoon, it just felt, like I said, rushed. Why was Gran reciting Katara's intro? That literally made me physically cringe. It was just like, what the fuck is this? Episode 2 was also a 4 out of 10. I loathed this episode. I would have gave it a 0 out of 10 had there not been redeeming qualities. They basically replaced the solstice episode. If you guys, okay, I'm talking about this, I'm talking about the series as if you've seen the series, and if you haven't, then you haven't and you don't know what I'm talking about. But they basically replace they basically replace the solstice episode where Aang goes to talk to Roku. They replace it with Kyoshi. And if you say like, oh no, they didn't, they actually go to the Fire Nation temple to go talk to Roku on the solstice. Well, yeah, but all that conversation that's supposed to happen between him and Roku happens between him and Kyoshi. It doesn't make sense because Aang doesn't encounter Kyoshi until book 2. So it's like, why are we what? Like, why is he talking to Kyoshi if he doesn't talk to her till like book 2 and book 3? Off the bat, Kyoshi is harsh, which typical Kyoshi fashion, if we're all being honest. Aang doesn't really experience that harshness until book 2. And yeah, there's little aspects of like him getting like, oh, you were gone for 100 years. Why are you now back all of a sudden? Like, I get it. You know, there is that harshness that comes with him being gone for 100 years. But it's just like, why? Like, why is he talking to Kyoshi? I thought about it and I was like, okay, so is he talking to Kyoshi because people wanted to see more of Kyoshi in Avatar? It's like find ways to implement Kyoshi properly. Yeah, they're on Kyoshi Island. Yeah, they're talking to all the Kyoshi warriors and whatnot. But the fact that like he's now all of a sudden talking to Kyoshi and all the dialogue between him and Roku happens between her and Aang, it's just like, why are you fucking up the order? What is the point? Also, whenever he talks to the avatars, it
Feels like a fucking acid trip.
I don't know who decided to put the filters whenever Aang like goes into the avatar state or goes into the spirit world, but when he begins talking to the avatars, it feels like a fucking acid trip. It feels like I'm on shrooms. Like, do you see what I mean? Like we look at this and it's just like, hello? Did I just drop a tab of fucking acid? What the fuck is this shit? I gave that episode a 4 out of 10. And then you may be asking like, oh, well, what were the redeeming factors? The redeeming factors were actually Kyoshi bending and like Kyoshi popping up. Fucking sick. I liked it. It was pretty nice. Then the Kyoshi warriors, their makeup, it just looked really good. Sokka and Suki's chemistry, it felt nice. It didn't feel like it didn't feel forced. It felt like two teenagers looked at each other and were like, hey, I kind of like you. I kind of dig you, you know? That's how I felt like. It didn't feel awkward. It didn't feel weird. It didn't feel, it didn't feel forced. It didn't feel rushed. It felt nice. So, the makeup, the effects, and the chemistry was honestly the only redeeming factors that I had for this. Now, episode 3 was honestly my favorite part about this entire fucking series. Episode 3 and episode 6. Overall, I gave episode 3 a 7.5 out of 10. This episode gave me so much hope that the series was gonna pick up and get better. Omashu felt like Omashu. It was insane. The fucking visuals that they made for Omashu was stunning. It felt like Omashu. Jet and the Mechanist's storyline intertwining, mwah, chef's kiss. It was honestly amazing to see because I would have never thought about how Jet and the Mechanist's story intertwined so well. They honestly have a lot in common that I didn't realize until this episode. If you watch the cartoon, then you would know Jet blows up the dam that leads to a Fire Nation little village, I think. I can't remember if it was like a Fire Nation village or like a Fire Nation like nomad, whatever. So he blows up the dam because he wants to destroy this town, and the reason why he wants to do it is because he's a freedom fighter and he believes that every firebender or everybody that's involved with the Fire Nation is bad, no matter what. Even if they're against the war, he thinks that they're bad, right? Then we have the Mechanist who works for the Fire Nation. He is supplying and designing all of those weapons that are helping the Fire Nation, right? So the way that they did it was Katara was the one that finds out that the Mechanist is working with the Fire Nation. And then Aang is the one that finds out that Jet is a piece of shit. The way that they did it was Jet was gonna go ahead and replace an invention with a bomb. The Mechanist takes that bomb, which he thinks is his invention, to go show it to King Bumi. And the reason why he goes to do that the reason why Jet replaces it with a bomb is because Jet wants to kill King Bumi. If you remember in the cartoon, when they go to Omashu, everyone's giving shit to Bumi because they just think he's a crazy old senile man. And that's the same thing that Jet says. He's a crazy old senile man and he hasn't done shit for Omashu. So let's take him out. And it makes sense. Everything that they did in episode 3 made so much sense. It did feel a tad bit rushed, but I'll look past it. Now, they introduce Azula in episode 3. And, well, they also introduce Ozai in book 1, too. Leave book 2 in book 2. Don't bring anything else into book 1 that isn't in book 1. And I'll get into that later because that is my biggest complaint about this show is they bring a lot of book 2 into book 1. It's you have no reason to do that. They introduce Azula, which I feel like could have waited, really. Azula, the entire series is just there. She doesn't really do much that she does like in book 2. She's just kind of there. They just show her doing a bunch of training and like scheming, but then like other than that, it's just like, meh. There was a lot of corruption going on in Omashu, which again also made sense because again, Bumi is an old senile man. And then they showed Azula and Zhao working together, which I was like, okay, interesting. Overall, episode 3 was 7 out of 10. And then episode 4 came around and I was really disappointed. After the 3rd episode, it gave me so much high hopes that, like I said, it was gonna pick up. Boy, was I wrong. They did Bumi astronomically dirty, and I'll get into Bumi's characters a little later, but that was the most disappointing thing out of the entire series, was how dirty they did Bumi. But for now, let's get into the tunnels. Now, if you watch the live action from start to finish, then you'll know that Katara and Sokka were the ones in the tunnels, not Katara, Sokka, and Aang. Appa is nowhere to be seen throughout these 2 episodes. We have no idea where Appa is. We also have no idea where Momo is. Aang is busy doing his trials with King Bumi, while Sokka and Katara go into the tunnels. The reason why they go into the tunnels is because they hear Aang was captured and they need to go save him, and the only way to get into the palace is through those tunnels. So they throw Katara and Sokka in there, which is fine. And the reason why I think they do this is also another reason why I don't think that the live action is going to push for Katara and Aang's romance. The reason being is because Katara's actress is 17 years old. Aang's actor is 14 years old. That is equivalent to a freshman and a senior dating. Do you see how weird that is? If the grades don't touch, neither should you. I'm perfectly fine with them not pushing the romance because 17 and 14 does not mix well. It's weird and it makes me uncomfortable. Now, with that reason being, why not cast somebody that's closer to Aang's age? You know, you fucking weirdos that are trying to justify like, oh, well, in the series, Katara was 14, Aang was 12, like, okay, it's 2 years apart, like, that's fine. Yeah, it's fine because it's a cartoon, right? It's not weird, but when you push that onto, like, actual adults, the one being 17, the other one being 14, it's just like, it's weird. It's fucking weird. And honestly, I'm glad that they're not pushing for it. It would just feel uncomfortable, you know what I mean? So they put Sokka and Katara in the tunnels, which again, I didn't mind. Bumi was giving Jim Carrey's The Grinch, which like kind of makes sense, but also kind of doesn't. Bumi was being really fucking harsh to Aang. If you watch the cartoon, you'd be like, yeah, he was harsh. You know, he was harsh because he was giving him trials to see if he was adequate enough to be an avatar, right? And at the end of the trials, he was shown that, yeah, he's equipped enough to be the avatar. He has a lot of learning to do. And you might say, yeah, Diana, Bumi was an asshole in the cartoons, but like not to this extent. He was basically being Avatar Kyoshi harsh. And it's like, why are you pushing that onto Bumi? That's not his fucking character. Bumi was the biggest weak point of all this. Then they did include Iroh being captured by the Earth Nation, or Earthbenders, I guess. And, you know, there's a scene where one of the Earth generals is grilling into Iroh. He's basically saying, like, you know nothing of loss because of your stupid little war and because of what you did back in Ba Sing Se. I lost everything. I lost my family, and it's all because of you. And then he goes and says, you don't know nothing about loss. And then after that whole sequence, it goes to Lu Ten's funeral, which was like, it caught me off guard, but in a good way. I was like, holy shit, that's deep. Because then even I kind of didn't like Iroh's response, but Iroh looking back onto his son's funeral, it was like, it was harsh. It was sad. It was so fucking like, damn, fuck. That shit was sad. So overall, I gave this episode a 5.5 out of 10. Oh, episode 5. Oh my fuck. I borderline almost have no words for this fucking episode. This episode was a 3 out of 10. And like, genuinely fuck this episode. This episode made me scream at my fucking laptop. It brought in so much aspects of book 2 into book 1. Why? I don't know. And it pissed me off so much so because, like, okay, in the beginning, they were showing a lot of book 2 in book 1, which in the beginning, I was like, okay, I'll let it slide. You know, I guess it kind of brings some context that will be relevant later to book 2. And then they just started bringing in a lot of shit from book 2 into book 1. And I'm like, dude, why are you guys doing this? What the fuck are you guys going to do for book 2? Book 3? then what are you gonna do for book 3? You know, like, it's like, leave shit in book 2. Why is it coming into book 1? The outfits for this episode, they were nice. The Fire Nation garb came out looking really well. Somehow all 3, you know, the episode that leads into I believe it's called the Winter Solstice Part 1 and then Winter Solstice Part 2. In part 1, they encounter a village and the village needs help because a lot of people are trapped in the spirit world, right? And essentially Aang and Sokka are the ones that get stuck in the spirit world and they have to figure out what the fuck's going on. Well, Aang does. Sokka's lost somewhere. But somehow all 3 of them get trapped in the spirit world, which kind of didn't make much sense, but okay. Again, I wrote crazy how Zuko's scar kept changing shape, size, and color. Yeah, it was more noticeable in this episode as well. You recognize this owl? I thought so because he's from book 2 in the library episode. Why the fuck is he in book 1 in episode 5? Do you guys remember the swamp episode in book 2? This is that episode. Which again, why? Azula, they show Azula training and she gets pissed off because she's not getting this a certain move right, and she takes out all her anger on this like instructor and she's like beating the fuck out of him. And that pissed me off because I'm just like, that's not what Azula would have done. But you know, again, that might just be me nitpicky. But also it's just like, that's not Azula. Like, there's little things in this episode that matter a lot. There's little things in this series that matter a lot that were rewritten that just is like, why would you do that? Now, if you guys remember in the raid of the Northern Water Tribe, Aang goes into the spirit world to look for guidance because he has no idea what the fuck to do. And while he's in the spirit world, he encounters Ko, the face stealer, the centipede that steals everybody's faces if they show emotion. They include him in this episode. They mention the fog of lost souls. It's in Korra, not Avatar: The Last Airbender, because it's never explained where Sokka and Katara, well, it's never explained where Sokka is lost. Or no, in part 1 of the Winter Solstice, it's never explained. They're just lost in the spirit world. They mention the Fog of Lost Souls, which again is in Korra, not in Avatar: The Last Airbender. They don't mention the Winter Solstice. And then now, for whatever reason, they just need to go to the respective shrines of the avatars in order for Aang to talk to the avatars. And it's like, what? He just needs to meditate. Why the fuck are you doing that? Like, what is the point? Like, there's little things in this series that they rewrote that I'm just like, why? What was the reason? Episode 6 again gave me false hope. Episode 6, 9 out of 10. Like I said, episode 3 and 6 were the best fucking episodes ever. Aang leaves Sokka and Katara in the spirit world and goes to the Roku shrine by himself, talks to Roku. That part felt a little goofy, I'm not gonna lie. This is basically the Blue Spirit episode. They did it so fucking amazing. They were cooking like Gordon Ramsay up in that bitch in this episode. It was done phenomenally. Phenomenal. It was done flamingly. Do you get it? Because it's Fire Nation, Firebenders. You get it. It was done really well. I recommend you just go watch that episode. For, you know, if you've already seen the cartoon series, then you know what happens in the Blue Spirit episode. If you didn't like the series and didn't watch it up until like episode 3, watch episode 6. That by itself is fine. When I was a kid and I watched Aang and Zuko talk, or well, more Aang talking about how it sucked that he was born 100 years ago and he didn't get to keep all of his friends. And I always wish that Zuko and Aang had a whole conversation. I always wanted them to like maybe just talk out. Like maybe if they talked more, there'd be more empathy that Zuko could give Aang. And, you know, it sucks because they never ended up talking, right? Zuko attacks Aang. But in this episode, they have Aang and Zuko have a whole conversation. And it felt so good to watch. It felt like finally 2 enemies that have been going at it for a while, just for some reason, sit down and talk. And it kind of feels like, bro, why are we fighting? They're having this conversation and it goes well. And then Aang brings up compassion. And because of Zuko's past and lore and all this other stuff, Zuko gets mad at the fact that Aang wants more compassion from, I guess, pretty much everybody. And Zuko gets pissed off about that. And that's where it leads to like the first attack, him, you know, being pissed off with Aang. And that's the reason why he wants to, you know, kill Aang is because, his dad didn't show him compassion. So why should he show Aang compassion? Because compassion is the one thing that Zuko feels like he doesn't have because of his dad. Man, this episode was done so fucking good. It's almost disappointing at how good this episode was, because then every other episode just doesn't live up to this standard. If you watched the first few episodes and didn't get to episode 6, I recommend you watch episode 6. At least, one episode that is really well written, really well done, really well executed. It's this episode. That's the only episode that I really recommend you watch. I mean, you could watch episode 3. It's still amazing, but episode 6 is really where it's at. Episode 7 was a 5 out of 10. Episode 6 was amazing. Then episode 7 came along and I was sad again. They set up Zuko's assassination attempt pretty well. The reason why Zuko is fleeing, because you know how everybody is leaving the ship. In the cartoon, everybody's leaving the ship because I guess it's like, I don't know, some type of festival or something like that, right? And then it's the pirates that assassinate Zuko. Pirates are nowhere to be seen in this series, which is kind of upsetting. But the way that they set it up was that Zhao was talking to one of the crewmates, and one of the loyal crewmates of Zuko's overhears, tells Zuko that Ozai has sent out to go ahead and apprehend Zuko for treason. Now, it kind of doesn't make sense why he would be apprehended for treason, which I guess, whatever. But Iroh says, okay, you need to flee, go get out, get the fuck out, whatever, right? And Zuko leaves, and that's where his little tiny boat blows up. That was nice. It was an interesting way to set that up, which I didn't mind at all. They get to the Northern Water Tribe, and again, it looks amazing. All the visuals that they had for each city or each town or each village that they had, like they were going into, amazing. It looked really well. Azula doesn't feel like Azula this episode. Yue gets introduced, and the best way that I could describe it is Caliucci's cosplaying Yue. I'm glad they kept Katara finding out that she could only heal. They break off Yue and her fiance's marriage, or like the proposal, and they make Yue less. They made her a waterbending priestess that could go into the spirit world. And if you're like, I guess that kind of makes sense. I mean, it kind of does, because technically she's half human, half spirit, but also it's like, why? They made Sokka and Yue together, which is, it's nice. I'm pretty sure everybody in the series wanted that, so that's probably what they were catering to, is that Yue and Sokka were together in peace. And that's what they were in this episode, which I was kind of like, oh, okay, I guess, that's fine, because everybody, in the fandom wished that would have happened. They made Yue care less about her responsibilities and her community, and she's just now all of a sudden a waterbending priestess, which I was like, okay, interesting, no, I guess. Aang doesn't want Katara or Sokka around, which again also doesn't make sense. And Aang is against Katara fighting, and basically is the same. He's basically taking on the same stance that Pakku is taking. He's like, you're a woman, go heal, you know what I mean? It's equivalent to be like, hey, you're a woman, go back in the fucking kitchen, which, in a sense, to their, respective cultures, it makes sense. But for Aang to be like, Katara, yeah, go back and heal, it was just like, who the fuck is this? Who are you? Azula is defying Ozai, and her demanding to leave the palace was like, what? What? I was like, in my head, I was like, dude, Azula would have never defied Ozai. Aang doesn't want to learn waterbending. Yeah, you heard that right. He doesn't want to learn waterbending. Episode 8. Episode 8 was a 7 out of 10. It was an episode, and that was about it, really. Pakku and Katara have this moment of realization. Well, in episode 8, it starts off with Katara saying, hey, Pakku, you fucking idiot. Like, there's this whole war happening. Let us fight, because you have, like, you only have a number of men. Yeah, we could do more than just heal, but we could also fight. So let us fight. You know what I mean? And then I forget who. I think it was Hagoda, or however the fuck you say her name. It was the woman that leads all the healers. She was saying, she has a point. Let us fight. Like, these are old traditions. Why are we still keeping up with them if this isn't how we feel? This isn't how we feel anymore. And Pakku kind of has a moment of realization, like, oh, fuck, yeah, she's right. We do need the help. Okay, fine. Go on. Go fight. Which was nice. It was good. It was cool. The Oasis visual was beautiful. They showed the Oasis in the Northern Water Tribe. So nice. It looked so well. They tried killing off Momo. Which I will never forgive them for. And the only reason why they did that is to show that the fucking Oasis can heal anybody that has like going through a fucking ailment. But like the fact that you guys tried killing off Momo, I will never forget you guys for that. I will never forgive. I will never forget. I will never forgive. You know, the same way that they're like, oh, just forgive and forget. No, I will never forget or forgive. The fuck is wrong with you guys trying to killing off Momo? How dare you?
No! Kill her now! I got 100,000 for whoever blow that bitch brains out!
Anyways, Katara now all of a sudden is a master, which... okay. Since when? I swear to God, it was just barely like episode 2 and now all of a sudden she knows everything there is in waterbending, which was not... it wasn't fitting at all. They show the aftermath of the whole but the whole battle that happens in the Northern Water Tribe between the Fire Nation and the Water Tribe. It was done really well. It was done really nice. And it, you know, in the cartoon, you don't really get the aftermath of them like cleaning up, finding survivors and all this other stuff. They show that in the series, which I thought was a nice touch. It was done really well. I gave that episode an 8 out of 10 just because everything else kind of made up for it. The visuals, the fight scene, you know, everything that was in the raid of the Northern Water Tribe, the last episode, it was also in the last episode. So it was nice, you know. Complaints and thoughts. Now, my biggest complaint overall would be how they're bringing in shit from book 2 into book 1. They introduced Azula in book 1, which could have waited till book 2. Ozai was not even brought until book 3. Why are we bringing him into book 1? I guess, I don't know. Maybe it's kind of relevant. It got to the point where at first they were referencing shit from book 2 into book 1, where I was like, okay, I'll let it slide. But then they just started bringing in episodes from book 2 into book 1, and I was like, okay, why are we doing this? Because now what content are you going to bring in for book 2? Book 3? Are you going to bring in more filler episodes for book 2? No? Okay, so then why is this happening? Like, what, you don't need to introduce shit from book 2 into book 1, because then, like, we already know the context of what's happening in book 1. Why is this, you know what I mean? I was like, okay, it pissed me off, frankly. A lot of little things were rewritten that peeved me that are kind of crucial to the story. Now, Aang not wanting to learn waterbending till after book 1 kind of pissed me off. Aang is ecstatic to learn about everything that has to do with waterbending in book 1. You know, even though he's not that rusty at it, he does get excited at bending the elements. It isn't until book 2 and the end of book 1 that he's like, I can't do anything with fire. Earth is going to be difficult. But water is probably his favorite element that is shown in book 1. They don't show that in book 1. They don't show that in the series. He just would rather learn it because he doesn't really feel like learning it. It's like, really? Are you serious? Like, what is the point of that being rewritten? It doesn't make sense. So Katara in episode 2 is practicing waterbending, and she goes, hey, Aang, like, you know, it would be good if you learned. And Aang, I'm paraphrasing, Aang says, nah, Gyatso he was my instructor, and I just don't feel right with him not being here. I just, you know, whatever. I just don't want to learn because Gyatso isn't around anymore. Which, why? Gyatso only knows air. Was he going to teach you water, fire, earth? Why does that matter? They get rid of the deserter episode, which is the episode, if you remember, and if you're a big fanatic and you only need the titles to know which episode is which episode, I'm glad, you know, I'm in the same boat with you. But to the people that don't know, the deserter episode is the episode where Aang learns how to firebend before he learns how to do earth and water. The deserter, which I can't remember his name, tells him, you can't fuck up the order of elements. You need to wait till fire is last. And then he has a vision of Avatar Roku saying, you know, you need to teach him firebending. And it doesn't matter what elements, it doesn't matter the order of elements, because right now it's dire that he learns firebending. Aang learns a little bit of firebending, but he is so impatient, he's so eager to learn that he fucks up and he ends up hurting Katara really bad. And then that's how Katara figures out that she has healing abilities, because she dips her hands in waters because her hands are burned, and that's how she heals herself. Then that also causes strife in Aang for him to be like, fuck, I don't want to learn firebending anymore. Because to him, now firebending is truly super destructive. He's seen it through the Fire Nation because the Fire Nation is fucking up everything. You know what I mean? They're fucking up villages, they're fucking up people, they're fucking up everything. And that's another reason why he doesn't want to learn firebending, is because now he burned Katara, so now he thinks that fire is destructive. And that's the entire strife that he has about firebending throughout the entire series. But they don't add that. So it's like, okay, so what are you gonna do now? Now let's get into the characters. Let me preface this first. It's not the actor's fault. It's the writing, okay? Okay. That's when I want to get out of the way. Because me going into acting, I've been in a few plays. It's almost never the actor, it's always the writing. Because sometimes the writing just is like, what the fuck? Why would the producers do that? Why is the writing like that? It doesn't make sense, which I get. It's not the actor's fault, because the actors, they did an amazing job. They did what they were handed. You know, you have a script. When you get into like, my expertise is plays. I've never really been in a full-on, movie or anything like that. So the way that we go about it is that you're handed a script, you learn your lines, you sometimes do a table read, and then you go ahead and rehearse until you get shit right? You're handed a script. So essentially your job is just to basically act out what you're given. And that's what they did. They acted out what they were given, and they did a good job. Now, is it their fault? No, not necessarily. It's the writer's fault, because then it's just like, okay, why are you guys writing that? It has nothing to do with book 1, should have stayed in book 2, or that's not Aang's character, why did you guys write it that way? It's not the actor's fault, okay? Okay, I just want to get that out of the way, because sometimes people are like, why the fuck are the actors doing this? Why are they doing that? It's not their fault. It's production. It's writing, okay? Okay, thank you. God, that's all I wanted to fucking preface. Sokka felt like Sokka, more or less. The writing for him didn't feel bad. Do I think some dialogue could have been better? Yeah, but overall, Sokka's Sokka, and it's not bad. Katara, minute slay. It wasn't the best, but it wasn't the worst. Katara almost felt just as bland as May, but like, again, it's not the actress's fault. Aang was kind of confusing. The writing for him didn't make much sense. He borderline refuses to learn waterbending until after the Northern Water Tribe. The producers wanted him to be serious and not a kid, but he still felt like a fucking kid. So what was the whole point of that? I have no idea. Writers or producers were trying to achieve when they said, oh yeah, let's make him a serious adult-like character, but he still felt like a kid. So it's just like, what was the point of that? All that. Zuko was Zuko, I guess. I felt like maybe the casting could have been a little bit different. There was times where I started mocking the dialogue just because of how the actor said it. There's one space in between Zuko and Iroh talking where I'm just like, maybe you guys should have reshot that. You know what I'm saying? The actor, he did a good job. It wasn't bad. I'm pretty sure it was just more the dialogue and the writers that were fucking up, Like I said, sometimes it's the writer's fault, sometimes it's the actor's fault. A lot of people were saying like, oh yeah, Zuko's a brat. He's a spoiled rich brat, which, yeah, I get it. He did that well, but sometimes I'm like, some of the scenes I'm just like, maybe you guys should have reshot that. Maybe you guys should have executed it a little bit better. You know what I mean? Azula didn't feel like Azula. Her lashing out on the instructor didn't feel like Azula. Azula in the cartoon, if she felt like she wasn't doing enough, or if she felt mad about something that she's not getting, or just something, if there's a minor inconvenience and she's pissed off and she needs to let steam off, she would have humiliated somebody. She would have gotten an instructor and like put a fucking apple on their head and fucking gone super close, damn near to their face as much as possible without hurting them. Like she would have done something else besides like beating on her instructor. Ty Lee felt like Ty Lee. May was bland, which is in fashion with May. Boomy was the biggest disappointment. Boomy was the biggest asshole towards Aang. And he's right next to Kyoshi when it comes to assholery and pettiness, which is not Boomy. It's not the actor's fault. Again, it's more of wardrobe and makeup. Seeing Boomy, it felt like a young guy in old guy makeup. Like, have you guys ever seen Bad Grandpa, where Johnny Knoxville dresses up as a grandpa and he's like in makeup? That looked a lot better than the makeup in Boomy. Zhao wasn't all that bad. I didn't really like how they directed his storyline, which it was a little bizarre to me. Him working with Azula didn't make all that much sense. Iroh wasn't bad either. I'll give him his flowers. He was pretty well. Ozai was Ozai. It wasn't bad. I actually enjoyed it. Yue, like I said, Kaliuchi's cosplaying Yue basically. They made her care less about her duties. Why? I don't know. Overall, special effects, 7.5 out of 10. They were amazing. The Omashu episode came around, the visuals were nice, the locations, the CGI, on the other hand, it sometimes looked wonky. When Aang was going into the Avatar state, it didn't look like Aang, it looked like a completely other kid, and I'm like, who the fuck is that? Momo probably could have been done a lot better. Maybe you guys should have used a little bit of another model. When they were bending, it looked amazing. It looked really well. Them bending looked actually like they were bending. Katara, on the other hand, though, she would like just move her hand and then all of a sudden there's a fucking monsoon wave. Like, it looked weird as fuck with Katara. The elemental effects were 100% better than M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong's movie. The choreography for the elements, for the fighting, mwah, chef's kiss. It looked really well. The makeup was a 5 out of 10. Kyoshi and the Kyoshi Warriors face paint, it was immaculate. 10 out of fucking 10. It was so fucking good.
Beyonce! 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 Beyonce!
It just, I was like, dude, this is it. It's good. It looked good. Zuko's scar, on the other hand, it kept changing size, color, and shape, which I kept saying throughout this video. It didn't feel like a scar. It felt like a birthmark at best. I noticed it change every fucking episode. Katara and Pakku's fight was kind of bad. Sokka and Zuko's fight, a little bit bad. Overall, I gave the entire series a 5 out of 10. It was a good balance of being disappointed and being really hyped. Everybody that has watched the series and stopped at like a certain episode, I recommend that you watch the entire series, and if you don't, at least watch episode 6. Do I think was it done all that well? Could have been better, but you know, that's just my personal opinion. Thanks for staying until the end of the video. I truly appreciate it. I hope this video was as concise as I wanted it to be. I know it might have been a little confusing if you heard me talking about some things that kind of confused you a little bit. Welcome to my boat. This is how I felt watching the entire series. I really hope that some of you guys watched from start to finish this live action series. I will make a review once book 2 comes out, and then if book 3 comes out, I'll definitely be making a review. Hopefully by then they get some shit right. And overall, I gave this live action a 5 out of 10 because it was well balanced. And if you don't believe me and if you think I'm wrong, well, I would love to hear your opinion. Comment down below what you guys think about the whole series overall. I really wish the original creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender didn't have this, I guess, quarrel with the Netflix producers and the Netflix writers, I guess, over this entire series, because it sucks. I wish they were on the project as much as everybody else, but you know, we can't have it our way sometimes, as unfortunate as it is. But there is a movie coming out next year of the whole team Avatar in their adulthood, and I can't wait to see that, and I'm so excited. But yeah, thank you for sticking until the end of the video. And last thing before I go, I just want to give a little quick appreciation to people who stick around until the end. I truly appreciate it. I really am happy knowing that people stay and watch the end, you know, whether you guys like it or not. I'm really glad you guys watch. And I know there's some of you that hate watch my videos. And honestly, I'm glad, because it only further propels me farther into the YouTube algorithm. So thank you for boosting up my view count, whether you hate me or you love me. I truly appreciate it. Now, that's all I really wanted to say. Okay, now, with peace and love. Fuck off.
There is no race, she blessing me over, I'm saying my grace. You can't compare it to what I'ma build. She love me for me, cause I got the skill. You fuck up the mood and I pay the bills. Try to test me and I get the kills. Yeah, Miss Cardi, she loving the Molly. I'm driving too fast cause I'm in a Rari. I'm taking a trip, I'm going to Bali. If you got a problem, you know where to find me. My heart is